So UFC Fight Night, Tsarukyan versus Hooker. This is gonna be my picks for the weekend. I know I have been late to the video, but this should sound 100 times more clearer. I got a brand new computer, but yeah, let's get this started. So the first fight on the card is Marek Bujulo versus Denzel Freeman. I've been doing some tape on both of them, and Bujulo is a 6-0 fighter, while I think Denzel Freeman's just fought better competition in America, so I'm going to go for Denzel Freeman by a knockout. He's been knocking a lot of people out on the regional scene, and for the odds is Denzel Freeman's the favourite at $1.46, and Marek Bujulo is $2.70. $2.25 for Denzel Freeman's looking pretty good though for the KO. So yeah, and for the next fight, if I don't press on that by accident, is Narulo Aliev versus Shamrock. I keep for some reason I keep thinking Shamrock is the British guy, but he's a debutant. I think he's out of Britain possibly. But Naruli Aliev, he's fought Joe Selecki, he won by decision, and Rafael Alves. He's basically just a copy of Khabib. And I haven't really watched much on Shamrock, but I'm going to go Aliev by a decision. I think he's proved he's on a 2-fight win streak in the UFC already, so yeah, got an Aliev. And for the odds of this fight, it's $1.34 for Aliev being the favourite, and Shamrock $3.30. Aliev's $1.09, $2 for the points, so that's a good bet. For the next bout, Ismail Nurdiev versus Ryan Loder. This is low level. This is the lowest level middleweight fight. I'm pretty sure both these guys are on losing streaks, and if I'm not wrong, yeah, Ismail Nurdiev, losing to Iron Turtle isn't the worst thing in the world. Bruno Silva, he's a win-loss fighter. Pretty sure he's a welterweight, now he's coming up to middleweight. Very win-loss sort of fighter. And for Ryan Loder, his last 2 fights, he lost to Bekelev, Asmat Bekelev, who's an alright middleweight, and Robert Valentin, who KO'd him, but Robert Valentin's as low level as you get. I think I'm gonna go for Ismail Nurdiev. Nurdiev, even though he's a win-loss fighter, he's been in the UFC longer. He's been in and out of the UFC longer, and I think losing to Iron Turtle's no shame. And I don't rate Bruno Silva, but beating a vet like Bruno Silva is a lot better. I think Ismail Nurdiev by decision. And for the odds, Ismail Nurdiev's $1.73 and Ryan Loder's $2.11. So yeah, I'm going Ismail Nurdiev. And for the next fight, okay, they've jumped to this down the card. Bezkat Akmahen Bezkat. That's Alexandre Topuria. Man, the odds really jumped for this fight. Bezkat has looked good in his last 2 fights in the UFC. He lost to Umar in his debut. It's always a tough fight to have one of the Nurmagomedovs. And then he KO'd Brad Katona within a round. And Alexandre Topuria, he made his debut against Colby Thickness, who isn't too bad of a fighter himself at bantamweight, even though his striking isn't great. He out-grappled him. He's more of a grappler, Topuria, than his brother. It's kind of hard because I think Bekzat gave Umar a pretty hard fight on the ground, so I've been really going oohing and ahhing with this fight, but I think I'm gonna go Topuria by decision. I think only thing about This is a 50-50 fight, but I do think Topuria by decision. I think Topuria is really good. I don't know if he's top 15 level yet, but we have to see in this fight. But yeah, I'm going Topuria by decision. Topuria is $1.70, and Bekzat is $2.20. I think it's a 50-50 fight. So yeah. The next fight, Abdul Rahman Yakayev and Rafael Kakera. I'm just gonna say it straight out. Kakera sucks. He's the heaviest underdog on this card for a reason. He lost all his 3 fights in the UFC. You know, excuse me. He lost to Julius Walker, got KO'd by Modestas Bukauskas, and then made Ibo Aslan look good. We know Ibo Aslan ain't even in the UFC anymore. And Abdul Rahman he had a nice knockout on the Contender Series, so yeah, I'm going Abdul Rahman by round 1 KO. And for a round 1 KO is a $2.30, so I think that's what you go for. And Rafael Kakera is $8.50, which that is the correct odds. For the next fight is Alex Perez versus Asu Amabayev. If I'm not wrong, Alex Perez is on a fight not a 5-fight losing streak, but he is 4-1, like 1-4 in his last 5 fights. The last fight he won was Nicolau, and Nicolau ain't very good either. Even though Alex Perez has only been losing to the top fighters of flyweight, like just losing is not a great look. But Asu Amabayev, he's got 1 loss on his whole record, and that was against Manel Karp. Manel Karp's a top 5 flyweight, and he's like 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He beat Jose Ochoa, who's really good at flyweight. I'm gonna go Asu Amabayev by a decision. I think he's really good. The odds for this fight is $2.60 Alex Perez, and Asu Amabayev is $1.50. So yeah, I'm going Asu Amabayev by decision. And for the next fight, Nicholas Dalby versus Sagid Iskamayev. I'm going to be honest, I don't know who Sagid Iskamayev is. I know Nicholas Dalby. He has lost his last 2 fights. He had a brutal knockout over Randy Brown. And then I'm pretty sure he had a pretty close fight with Rinat Fakhretdinov. He looks like he's just kind of like slowed down he just looked like he slowed down significantly. And with Sagid, I haven't seen him fight on the regional scene. I haven't looked at the tape. It's real hard because these like randoms from Russia could be killers, or he could be a bum. But I think I'm gonna go Sagid. It looks like the odds makers are saying the same thing. I don't know how Sagid fights, so I'm gonna go Sagid by a decision. He's $1.30, while Nicholas Dalby is $3.70. So yeah, for the next fight is Bogdan Grad versus Luke Riley. Shit, where did I go? Oh yeah, Bogdan Grad. He hasn't looked horrible in the UFC, but he hasn't looked great either. He lost his last fight to Muhammad Naimov, and that's alright. And then he won against Lucas Alexander. Lucas Alexander isn't anything great. He KO'd him. Bogdan Grad kind of fights like he's on Legos sometimes. And Luke Riley, I'm pretty sure he's in Cage Warriors in England. And all the England casuals fucking love him, like Hopera MMA and all this stuff. So I'm going to go off them and say Luke Riley. I have heard buzz around Luke Riley. I'm going to go Luke Riley by a finish. He's $1.35. And Bogdan Grad is $3.30. I think Bogdan Grad's going to be these win-loss fighters in the lower ranks of featherweight. He's not a bad fighter though. But yeah, I think Luke Riley's got it. I've been hearing too much about him. And for the next fight, here's Tagir Ulanbekov versus Kyoji Horiguchi. Horiguchi is like one of the best flyweights outside of the UFC. He was in the UFC before. The only guy he lost to in the UFC was Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. And Tagir Ulanbekov, he's probably the weakest out of the Khabib crew. He's had some real fucking weak fights, if you ask me. I think they've been very mid and very weak fights. If I can find the odds. Yeah, he's on a 4-fight win streak, but he lost to Tim Elliott. I guess there's no shame there. I did like that Azit Maxim win. I think that was good, but I didn't think it wasn't anything super special. He kind of just held him there, and they're starting to favour damage a lot more. And, Clayton Carpenter, how good's Clayton Carpenter in 2025? I don't know. And Cody Durden's one of the worst flyweight in the UFC. He's not going to be in the UFC anymore. Like Kyoji Higuchi, I've been hearing he's been doing some awesome stuff outside of the UFC. I can't see his... hold on. I'm going to get his record up on Tapology. So, yeah, he's gone on a pretty good run outside the UFC. He won against Sergio Pettis. Sergio Pettis is really good. Shinru's pretty good. He lost to Patchy Mix. That's never a good look, but that was back in 2022. I think Kyoji Higuchi is going to make a flash back in flyweight. Like I said, when he was in the UFC, he only lost to Demetrius Johnson, who is the best flyweight of all time. So I'm going to go Kyoji Higuchi by a decision. And for the odds of that fight... Sorry, I'm all over the place with this. I hate my phone. Tagir's the big favourite, which is a very surprising thing. It's $1.46 for Tagir, and for Higuchi, it's $2.74. And if you want Higuchi by a decision, he's $3.60. So yeah, I think you can go straight onto that. And for the next fight, you ignore Sergey Spivak, because this fight was cancelled. But it's now Waldo... Actually, hold on. I'm going to start doing it. Yeah, so Waldo Cortez Acosta's come in on very short notice. 4 days notice to fight the Blob Gaziev. And... yeah. Man, Waldo Cortez Acosta is really good, man. His last win was against Anti-Deleja. I'll keep going here. His last win was against Anti-Deleja, and Anti-Deleja is really good. He just ran through oh my god, Marcin Tabura. And, he got eye poked in that fight, and then he finished him. I think, and before that he got a decisioned over Sergey Spivak. He got decisioned over... I can't remember the Russian. I can't remember him. Hold on. I'll have it here. Doesn't matter. He got decisioned over one of the top fives in heavyweight, but he's been on a pretty good run since then. And for Shamil Gaziev, he's very... I don't know how to explain it. He's a blob. He's a classic blob. He was undefeated until he went into Rosenstrike, which he literally quit on the stool because he was too tired. He's had 2 knockouts. He's had 2 knockouts since those fights. Sorry, I gotta look at this because it's actually pissing me off. Anyway, but yeah, Shamil's Where was his last two fights? Yeah, Dante Almeida. Dante Almeida sucks. I don't think he's a good fighter. He's out of the UFC anyway. And then Thomas Peterson. Thomas Peterson's a very average fighter too. He KO'd him. He's just a very big guy. So I'm gonna go. Shit. Just imagine this is Waldo Cortez Acosta. I'm gonna go Cortez Acosta by KO in the second round. I reckon. I think Cortez Acosta is a top 5 heavyweight in my opinion. But yeah, I'm gonna go Cortez Acosta by knockout. And for the next fight, which is probably the strangest bout, is Jack Hermanson versus Murtek Ulubai. Oh yeah, I forgot to do the odds. Walter Cortez Acosta's $1.70, Shamil's $2.16. Not a surprise. But yeah, Jack Hermanson versus Ulubai, Unga Bunga Caveman. Jack Hermanson, he got fucking flatlined by G-Rod. You know, like G-Rod's really good, Robocop. But he's been like on a win-loss kind of like, and he's very inactive. He fights mostly once a year at the moment. You know, he won against Curtis Blades, then he lost to Roman Dilidze, then he won against Joe Pyfer, which is actually aging to be a good win. Then lost to Gregory Reeders by brutal knockout. And Urabai, he's just missed weight a few times, but he's gone up in weight because I think they refused to let him back at lightweight. But the only guy he's lost to is Matus Rebecca, and he is the craziest fighter in probably the UFC. He just goes to war every time he's in there. He has a nice win over Urus Medic. Urus Medic ain't half a bad fighter. Elvis Brenner's really good. I think Murtek Ulubai is going to get him by a submission. I think Urubai's on the come up at welterweight, and I think Jack Hermanson's just going to be a bit too drained. I think he's on the downpour of his career, even though he's a win-loss fighter. But yeah, Urabai by second round submission, or even a KO. I might even go KO submission. So yeah, next fight is Volkan Oezdemir versus Alonzo Menifield. Oh, sorry. And the odds are Jack Hermanson's $3 and Urubai's $1.40. For Volkan Oezdemir versus Alonzo Menifield, this is, I'm not going to say it's a strange fight because it makes sense. I think Volkan just lost to Carlos Ulberg, but he KO'd Johnny Walker, so that was good. You know, that's not a bad win on his record. It's weird because, like, if you look at Volkan's last 3 fights, yeah, losing to Carlos Ulberg by a decision's not too bad, but he beat Bogdan Guskov, and Bogdan Guskov is fighting above him, which is, it's got me fucked up. But anyway, his last 3 fights, you know, he KO'd Walker, then he submitted Guskov, and he went to, not a close decision, but he got decision by Ulberg, who's going to fight for a title. You know, he's a pretty good fighter, Volkan. Like, he's like your mid, like he's your very like higher mid light heavyweight. And Alonzo Menifield, he's just kind of looked very, very average in his last 3 fights. Like, he got flatlined by Azmat Mirzakhanov, which Azmat's a fucking crazy KO artist. And, you know, he decision Julius Walker. Julius Walker ain't that good. And Omar Sy, which Omar Sy, I think we hyped up a bit too much. I think Volkan Oezdemir is going to knock out Alonzo Menifield. I just don't think Alonzo Menifield's that good. I think he's too muscly. I think he's too heavy on everything, and he just likes to grapple up against the fence a lot nowadays because of that knockout against Carlos Ulberg. So yeah, I'm going to go Volkan Oezdemir by KO. I still think Oezdemir is really good as a light heavyweight. And for the co-main event, man, fuck, I hate both these two. These two suck. I hate these two. I don't know why. But yeah. Oh, and I forgot to do the odds. Volkan Oezdemir is $1.40 and Alonzo's $2.90. But yeah, I don't like Bilal and don't like Ian. Just the way they talk, and it's so annoying just hearing both of them talk. But besides that, Bilal Muhammad, his last fight was against Jack Della Maddalena. Besides that, he was on a, 10 fight unbeaten streak, some crazy thing like that. He beat Leon Edwards, but Leon Edwards ain't that good. He beat Gilbert Burns, but Gilbert Burns is very mid too, like not that good anymore. Sean Brady's a great win. Sean Brady just got knocked out, but it's a good win. And credit where credit's due. JDM, he did give JDM, like, he was landing on JDM, but not that too much. And Ian Gary, he was on a real impressive win streak until he ran into Shavkat Rakhmonov. But his last four fights, as much as like people want to hype up Gary, I just don't like. He's been decisioning everybody. Like he decisioned Magny, he decisioned Neil. Neil could have won that fight. He laid on Michael Venom Page. Shavkat Rakhmonov, he was beaten by Shavkat Rakhmonov, and he called Carlos Prates his son, but he nearly got finished by Prates in the fifth round. Like he was probably the most hurt I've seen Ian Gary, and Bilal's a decent welterweight, but I think Ian's just he's rangier, he's a better striker. I'm just thinking in my head. And he says like he's gonna knock out Bilal. I don't think so. It's just a hard fight to choose because if Bilal like smudges him up against the friggin' fence, I could see that happening. But I could also see an Ian throwing his little teep kicks, throwing his little jab from out of range. It's really hard, and it's a real hard fight to choose. This is probably the hardest on the card. I think I'm gonna go. As much as I hate to say, I'd rather see Bilal win. I think it's Ian Machado Gary. Like he's a rangier fighter. I think he's got a few more weapons. I think Bilal's not on the downturn of his career, but I think it's a stylistic matchup. I think it's going to be super close. I don't think it's going to be overwhelming performance by Gary. It could be, you never know, but I think Ian's going to like edge out the decision just by the skin of his teeth. So yeah, I'm going Gary by decision. And yeah. If you want to know, Bilal's $3.20, while Ian Gary's $1.40. Ian by decision is $1.90, and Bilal by decision's $4.10. So yeah, there's your odds. And for the main event, excuse me, Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker. I don't know, right? Arman Tsarukyan's super impressive. He's super good. He beat Charles Oliveira in his last fight by split decision, mind you, but he beat Charles Oliveira. He knocked out Beneil Dariush. Beneil Dariush doesn't have his chin anymore, just to say. And, like, as much as, like, I don't know. A lot of people have been hyping up Arman Tsarukyan. It's like, oh yeah, he KO'd Beneil Dariush, but Beneil Dariush just got flatlined by BSD in under 20 seconds. And that Charles Oliveira fight, you could arguably say Charles won that fight too. But yeah, Arman's very impressive in the grappling. I don't think he's ever had I think he's had one submission in his whole career, if I'm not wrong. But he's so inactive. So is Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker, he's a dog. He's literally the definition of a dog fighter. Went to a dog fight with Gamrot. Went to a dog fight with Turner. TK'd Pullers. And they're on like their own like win streak. Obviously, Tsarukyan's is a lot more impressive. I know this sounds insane. Hear me out. I think Tsarukyan hasn't been in a dog fight yet. I think he needs to go on a real striking war. Like, if he can survive a good striking war with Dan Hooker, he can win the fight. I think he's going to try and smudge him on the ground. But I think Dan Hooker's going to make this a dogfight. And, there's no signs of Tsarukyan that it's got quit in him, but I think I want to see something. I want to see something from Tsarukyan where he can dog it out as well. So yeah, I think I'm going Dan Hooker by TKO in the third or fourth round. And I know I made this thing last week where I was like third or fourth round for JDM, but I've got my reasons for Dan Hooker. He's also rangier. He's been in these dogfights, and it looks like he hasn't really slowed down. But yeah, I'm gonna go Dan. Why does it say Georgia? Isn't he? Doesn't matter. I'm going Dan Hooker by like a late TKO. Could be an Armin by submission or a decision, but I just haven't seen Armin get a submission. But yeah, that's my picks for UFC Hooker versus Tsarukyan. I hope you like the new computer because it's so much better. It's just so much clearer, cleaner. I already posted this video, by the way, but obviously there was some new bouts and I had some new information. But yeah, if you like the video, please like and subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you later.